Hi there, ladies and gents, and I come to you today from my new abode. I've recently moved house and had to pack up my life and all of my stuff, all my books, various DVDs and CDs, and my record collection, and it was a pain in the ass to say the very least. Nevertheless, I'm glad to be here now in the new abode, and I'm going to look forward to bringing you some new reviews on my channel, which has now passed 2,000 views, so thank you very much to everyone who's been watching. Tonight I'm going to have a look at one of my favourite television series. It's the 1960s and 1950s series, The Twilight Zone. It's an excellent series, one of the best of all time. Rod Serling, the creator, was a former playwright, and he turned his hand towards the then new medium of television, and he did so with aplomb. This was a fantastic series, and Twilight Zone is one of his best-known works, and arguably his best. He went on afterwards to create the follow-up series Night Gallery. Twilight Zone was more of a science fiction anthology show with different stories every week, different actors, and that kept the show fresh. They had new stories every week. One week you had a horror story, then you had a supernatural drama the following week, then a comedy, then a sci-fi story with aliens. All of them had some kind of moral message to impart, some kind of story, social commentary to inform the audience with. And that's what makes it one of the most timeless shows of all time. You can watch an episode nowadays and it doesn't seem to have dated at all. Despite the black and white and the effects that people might see as primitive, the stories really speak for themselves. They're just wonderful. It's just brilliant storytelling. So Twilight Zone was a supernatural / science fiction show, whereas Night Gallery, his follow-up series, tended more towards the horror and the macabre. It was more like a horror series. And yes, so he's a very famous scriptwriter. Rod Serling, of course, introduced each episode. He was the presenter of the show, and he had very droll and well-spoken and articulate, intelligent, insightful comments on the episodes, and they were always amusing to watch, and sometimes they're the best part of the episode. Like with Alfred Hitchcock, with his show, how he opened and closed every episode with his commentary, which was very amusing. Alfred Hitchcock Presents is a great show as well, and I hope to review that at some point too. So I'm going to talk about Twilight Zone Series 3, which I recently got on Blu-ray, and I've burned through the whole set. The episodes are shorter than what you might expect from an average TV show these days. They're about 25 minutes apiece, the episodes. It is a fantastic set. It includes lots of commentaries and special features. And yeah, it's just a brilliant box set. And it includes some of the radio dramas. In 2002, I think, they produced some Twilight Zone radio plays based on some of the scripts for the television show. Season 3 is a season which contains many classic episodes of this landmark series. It includes the episodes 2. 2 is an episode which stars Charles Bronson, who needs no introduction, and Elizabeth Montgomery, who is another actress that needs no introduction. She, of course, later became Samantha on Bewitched, and was famous for that role. And she's in this before she became cast as the lead character in Bewitched. And it tells a post-apocalyptic love story, kind of. The two characters are alone, they're lonely, which is a persistent theme throughout the Twilight Zone, this theme of post-apocalyptic loneliness and being like the last human. It's a common theme in this show. So they're two strangers, one of the last survivors from the US side, and she plays a Russian survivor, and they meet and initially are oppositional to each other, and they eventually get on, and the episode leaves with the hint of a romance perhaps blossoming between the two. It's a fantastic, subtle episode which doesn't contain many supernatural or science fiction overtones. It's mostly just pure what-if post-apocalypse drama. It's a great screenplay and a great script and a great direction. It includes many other classic episodes, such as To Serve Man, which is a landmark episode of The Twilight Zone, and it's been parodied in the likes of The Simpsons. It's one of those immortal stories in popular culture. It's become legend. It's about a race of seemingly benevolent aliens who land on Earth, called the Canimites, and they instruct the humans on how to construct force fields around their countries, preventing missiles and bombs being launched at them. They get everyone to disarm. All the humans completely disarm all of their weapons, and their armies are all dismantled, and their navies. And they invite humans to join them on their spacecraft and take a trip to their home planet. And what they don't tell the humans, that they're cooking them. So they give the humans a book called To Serve Man, and the title of the book is written in their alien tongue, and the team of decoders are trying to work on the title, trying to translate the title, and the book is called To Serve Man, but serve, of course, has two dual meanings. It has the meaning to, to serve somebody, to wait on them, and the second meaning, of course, to serve them up as a dish, a meal of food. And so when the decoders find out what it really means, it's a cookbook. And the woman runs up to the protagonist and she says, before he gets on the ship, "Don't get on that ship. It's a cookbook." And "it's a cookbook" is a line which has been parodied many times in pop culture, not least by The Simpsons. To Serve Man is an essential episode of The Twilight Zone, and it stars Richard Kiel in one of his early appearances. He's an actor who recently passed away, sadly, and he played Jaws in 2 James Bond movies, The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977 and Moonraker in 1979, when he switched sides and joined Bond to stop the takeover from Drax on the space station. So Richard Kiel plays the Canimate alien, this huge, gigantic, tall alien in this episode. To Serve Man is a classic. Another classic episode is It's a Good Life, which is about a town terrorized by a 6-year-old boy with mental abilities, special powers that he can read minds, he can control objects and transmogrify objects with his thoughts. So if you don't think happy thoughts around him, he can do bad things to you. He sends people to the cornfield when they upset him in some way, which is like the metaphor for doing away with them, killing them. And everyone has to walk around on eggshells around this little boy. And the boy is played by Bill Mumy from Lost in Space fame. He later played Will Robinson in Lost in Space, and he previously, before this, appeared in some Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes. And it's just a great, iconic Twilight Zone episode, again parodied by The Simpsons. This season features a fantastic mix between the science fictional, the fantasy. There's a few Western episodes, like Western episodes with a slight supernatural bent, Westerns being very popular at the time. It has some comedy episodes. One great episode is one starring Buster Keaton, actually. It was a late performance by him, late in his career, and he was in the episode Once Upon a Time, which told the tale almost like a prototype Back to the Future, similar to that story. He played a man in the 1890s who wore a time helmet. He was a janitor working for a professor, and he finds this invention, the time helmet, puts it on, and he gets transported to the 1960s, and he's thinking about ways how to get back home. And it's just a great, funny, amusing episode, and a real change of pace for the series. The episode begins without any dialogue, and only soundtrack is like this tinkering piano sound, and there's all these silent movie captions showing up on the screen. So I thought that was a really clever touch to show the Buster Keaton silent hero. The episode co-stars Stanley Adams, who was an actor well known for his role in Star Trek, the original series, as Cyrano Jones, in the fan-favourite episode The Trouble with Tribbles in Season 2. So Buster Keaton and Stanley Adams make a good comedy double act in this episode. The Twilight Zone, rather, not the crappy Twilight movies. Twilight Zone is an essential series. Pick up the Blu-rays if you're a fan. It's a must. It is the classic granddaddy of all science fiction anthology series. I'm really getting into my anthologies lately. I've been enjoying the Alfred Hitchcock Hour as well, and I hope to get into the original Outer Limits too at some point. If you can suggest any other anthology series for me, please do so in the comments. I'd love to hear any suggestions. I'm really enjoying my anthologies and the way that they have different stories to tell every week. It keeps things original and stops things from getting boring. It contains a host of special features, many audio commentaries by the author of the Twilight Zone Companion, Mark Scott Zicree, and several of the writers of these original episodes are interviewed on here as well. It's a fantastic steal of a buy. I also have the first season of Twilight Zone on standard DVD. Perhaps I'll get the Blu-ray at some later point. I've only got Series 1 and 3 so far, but I might collect some of the others later because I'm a big fan of this series and pick them up on DVD or Blu-ray. It's an exceptional series. I also got Twilight Zone the movie on DVD, which I haven't watched as yet, but I hear that it's the episodes are the movie's an anthology format too, featuring 4 stories, and they're mostly remakes of classic episodes of the television series. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll review that when I get around to it. Pick up The Twilight Zone. It is a television classic for a reason. Rod Serling was a legend. I'll have some more reviews for you shortly. And yes, this is my first review coming to you from my new house. And yeah, I'm enjoying the new place, and I'd love to have some of you over sometime. Have a good evening, everyone. This is Adam Morton, signing out.